for idea validation. This example may not be very relevant today, but I think it will give you some idea what I'm saying. For 20-30 years back, when we had to travel, we used to, if we had to travel by train, we used to go to the railway station early morning, 7 o'clock, stand in the queue. If you can kindly be silent, please. We can ask them to be a bit silent if you don't mind. It's disturbing me. Okay, so 7 o'clock, if you have to go early and then you try to book a ticket and stand in the queue, and when you have to go back again, if you have to cancel, you have to again go back and stand. If you have to travel outstation, I remember we didn't have phone, so we used to do trunk call, and then we had to go through BSNL directory, find out a hotel. If you had to go to Jaipur, do a trunk call, wait for 6 hours, then do a money order. And then finally, when I go there, I may not be happy. So travel used to be completely disjointed, very, manual, very, very bothersome. Make My Trip came, they used technology to solve it, right? So travel became such a simple thing after that. In minutes, people could travel. After Make My Trip, you had, Yatra, you had Clear Trip, you had TripAdvisor, Booking.com, Agoda. They all came, they all became big. So that is a big problem. I'm just giving you an idea. So any idea which you are trying to follow, which you want to take up, it should have a lot of gaps. Second stage is product validation. Okay, you have decided, okay, fine, this is what I'm going to solve. Now, this is in the context where, and we are going to talk about it subsequently. It is better to go and look at industry problems where industry is already going through certain challenges, and if they have got a well-defined problem, then you straight away you start off without thinking about a problem, you straight away start off. Even if an industry problem comes, it should be deep enough. So that is the first stage. Second stage is product validation, where you build the first version of the product. You don't solve all the gaps. Solve is market validation, where you have to crack three things. One is, now the business thing comes. See, all along you're a researcher, you do research, you are technically strong, you know how to build solutions, you have been able to build, you have got a product validated. The next stage becomes completely commercial. So you need to have marketing acumen or business acumen to know what channel should I, how do I reach out to customers. If there is direct sales, distribution sales, there is app, you have marketplace, you have e-commerce, you have different ways of reaching customer. So what is the most efficient way of reaching the customer? Second is engagement model, where you need to have a very sound engagement model with the customer so that customer doesn't leave you, customer is happy with you, sticking with you. And third is gross margin. We need to have a healthy margin, 50% margin kind of a thing. So this whole thing which I'm talking about, this market validation, is a very important piece. And once that is cracked, then only this idea is ready for growth and scaling. Okay, so the fourth stage is the early growth stage. So there are a lot more other things when you go to the fourth stage. What kind of partnership we should have, what kind of resources I should have, what kind of people I should have, what kind of an organization I need to create, what kind of key activities I need to automate. So it all becomes organizational kind of thing. That is the fourth stage, then scaling. So this is the whole journey, the entrepreneur has to go through. From research, when you go there, you need to have, you need to have multiple hats you need to wear. So, I think I'll stop here. This is the introduction I wanted to give. Because later on, the kind of questions will come. This will help you to understand. So, Vishnu, have any opening words?
Perfect. Thank you. Those are essentially words of wisdom on what a deep tech startup or founder should look for. I'll do a quick introduction about what I do. I'm an investment partner at 𝗪𝗏 Invest. 𝗪𝗏 is a deep science-focused venture capital fund. Basically means that we invest in early stage companies, so pre-revenue, idea stage companies, which are in the science and engineering domain. We have teams sitting out of Chennai and Bangalore, but we invest across the country. And we invest typically across space, like as it was mentioned in the introduction, space tech, the energy transition, industrial decarbonization, mobility, semiconductors, robotics, advanced AI, quantum computing, management, software, sensing, and so on, life sciences, biotechnology, health sciences, and so on. Some of these are cross-cutting areas. We will invest heavily. We very intensively look in the defense tech space as well, which is cross-cutting again, fall in multiple brackets. Then most of it that comes to us. We have been one of the earliest deep science investors in the country, even before when the phrase deep tech or deep science was not in place. Some of our best performing companies are based out of Tamil Nadu, including 𝗪𝗏𝗏, which is the largest space tech startup in India, based out of Chennai. There is another company called 𝗂𝘃𝗀, again based out of Chennai, which works on organic mobility and so on. There is a semiconductor company, technologies. So some of them, and a lot of them are from the southern part of the country, and a few of them from across the country. We have been around for almost 9 years now, investing out of our third fund. I wanted to give a little bit of a flavor of why we think this is the need of the hour. I have started using this phrase often, and I hope that it carries on, that we don't necessarily need, we should not just be a growing economy, but we need to be, India needs to be an economy which is science-based economy, which means that innovation in the country needs to be driven by science and engineering. And which is where, role of deep tech or science comes into play. Tamil Nadu has always been at the forefront of the industrial growth in the country, and I believe it is time, the state to capitalize on that industrial base to move towards industrial innovation, which is very science-led. I am very glad that this Dinesh, the CEO over there, is a very close friend of mine, and I'm very glad that he is not sitting out in Chennai but in Coimbatore and building these nodal places where research in not just capital city but across the state is being supported. I want to see companies coming out of Coimbatore and other industrial clusters in Tamil Nadu and across the country where our inherent advantages are going to benefit. Chandran sir was very right in saying that the market orientation for any tech startup or any tech founder is very crucial. We can have all the technologies in the world that are being developed in the lab, but if you have to build a business out of it, we also need market orientation. And I'm glad different stakeholders are coming together in the last few years to help founders be audacious and courageous to start such ventures. Whether it be the central government coming up with tech policy or grants, or state governments coming up with recently had a tech policy published, or coming up with provisions to support early stage manufacturing companies to be based out of state. And the industries coming together to support the funding agencies such as mine coming and ready to put in money into the space, the tech space. So I won't take more time. I am very glad to be here, although virtually. And to start conversation, I probably will start tapping into Chandran sir's experience as well. We will do this as ideally should have been a conversation in person, but unfortunately we will do it this way. Chandran sir, if I may ask you, you have been investing for quite some time and have been in the corporate world for quite some time. Do you think investors today look at research-based startups slightly differently than how it was a few years ago?
Yeah.
To give us some historical context.
Yeah. Thank you, Vishnu. Yeah, see, 10-15 years back, even until very recently, you had, investors used to look at startups which were, SaaS-based or consumer internet, or they would look at IT-based services, because it was quickly, they were able to scale it. And they used to get exit also quickly. So people used to look at those kind of startups, and deep tech startups was considered to be very risky because long winding, regulatory, and and they didn't know the kind of challenges it had to go through. So investors were little averse, but that is changing now. So investors are now realizing that now deep tech long-term investments are the key, because and especially today with all the developments in AI, quantum computing, your biotechnology, your space tech. So these kind of areas are now really picking up in a big way, and people are realizing that money is there to be made in this space. So I think more and more investors are now looking at deep tech in a bigger way than what they used to. Time back, of course, I know that Specialia has been looking at deep tech for a long time now, and I think possibly you are one of the early investors who went into this space.
Yeah, I can just add a little bit to that, sir. We don't think it was an easy journey for us either. We are currently investing out of our Fund 3, but when we started with our Fund 1 investments, we had to literally go and tell the people who give us money, our LPs or limited partners, and we will do 50% frontier technologies, which is what Fintech is today, and 50% everything else. If you actually go into our website, you will still see some SaaS, Fintech and digital health investments from First Fund. But fortunately for us and for everyone else, we were able to return money from the deep tech investment fee, which gave our investors let us have a free in investing quickly in deep tech. And we can tell the story today with great pleasure. Thank you, sir. Sir, I wanted to also ask about how investors, especially, let's just keep pushing on for the minute now. But do you really think the investors in the country are currently risk averse, or is something else happening that is making them a little more audacious? And I understand that this risk profile of the investors also changes with time, right? Like in 2007, forget about deep tech. Any new company would have been an investment risk for VCs. Our venture capital industry was we were investing in science services companies. But then slowly consumer tech took over and the mindset shift. And now, even now Indian venture industry is like a very nascent baby, right? It's just venture life cycle, we would be 1.5 cycles old compared to 10, 15 or 20 cycles old American or older Chinese ecosystem. So do you think the mindset shift with the investor at a large scale look into deep tech or research-led investment? And do you have examples that you think can help our understand why that shift?
Okay. So here I think I need to give a little context, which I think may be useful to you. So I explained to you the 5 stages, right? So at the idea stage or the problem identification stage, will any investor put money? Nobody will put money. It's a question of you need to do some survey, you need to meet some people, understand what the issues are. So the funding, funding is available there. Let us move to the next stage, product validation stage. Product validation stage, you need money, right? You need to do some prototype, you need to have a POC, then prototype, and then you need to do some small piloting at your cost, because the customer is not going to pay money for it. So you need to invest in that, and you have to iterate. And so here is where actually you need support, some money, and today grants are available. So we have, today Dinesh was saying, the TN Research Park Foundation, they are supporting 20 startups. They have given some grants and 8 crore now support he was mentioning today morning. So there are grants available from different sources. We have Nidhi Prayas, they have a grant scheme. Then Atal Innovation, they also have a Startup India Seed Fund, there is a grant thing. So there are some grants available, even for BIRAC gives some grants for medtech and biotech startups. So the second stage, investors are not going to easily put money, okay, because Because I told you the second stage has got a lot of steps you need to cross, and there are too many risks. So investors normally don't put money, so you have to depend on grants or you have to put your own money. Okay, that is the second stage. When you go to the third stage with the market validation, there is where investors are willing to open the purse, because you have come into the market, you have sold, you got early paying customers. So now we are trying to discover how to expand. So there investors are willing to open the purse. And when you go to fourth stage, then funding starts. Okay, so that is how normally it happens. Now, when it comes to deep tech, it is a long journey. There are so many hurdles you need to cross, and the more hurdles are left, the more risks are there. So investors are averse. I mean, okay, now investors, there are two types of investors which you need to know. One is the angel networks, the other is the venture funds, right? Now, angel networks, many of you may know. If not, then so angel is somebody who helps a startup. I mean, they are called angel because they support startups at the early stage where nobody is willing to put money. Banks don't give money, and these are the gentlemen who put money, and that's how the angel kind of concept started many years back. They failed, they gave money, they failed, and then slowly they started becoming a network so that they can jointly evaluate. Somebody will know domain, somebody will know technology, somebody will know market. So that's how angel networks came. So angel networks open the purse. Typically they were opening the purse at the fourth stage, which is the growth stage. Then they slowly now started opening the purse at the market validation phase. They are still averse to putting money at the product development phase. Okay. Now that is one thing which I wanted to say. So there are a lot of risks are there. Suppose you have an industry partnership, you have done a pilot, they are giving you a paid order, means many risks are gone. You have applied for an IP, got an IP, there's in the medical field you need to have the CDSC approval. If you have got CDSC approval, then again risk is gone. So the lower risks which are left, the more chance that the investors will put money. So to answer you, Vishnu, I think what I meant is there is a lot of risks in deep tech. The lower the risks, the more the chances of funding. So, and if the entrepreneur knows exactly what this is, and there is a time-bound plan, 3 months I'm going to do this, next 6 months I'm going to do this, next 6 months I'm going to do this, and you do it, and you show it, you're doing it disciplinedly and showing it, then money comes. I don't know whether I answered you fully, but this is something which you should find it useful.
Absolutely, that is super useful.
Yeah.
Exactly what we also tell founders, right? Like, I mean, when people ask if there is not enough money in the ecosystem, actually there is always money for good entrepreneurs and good ideas and good execution. It's just that we don't have money to throw away or throw at any problem like we have in the US. Yeah, so I want to ask you something, Vishnu. I know that you come in very early, you come in even before product validation phase, you have funded startups. So what makes you, how do you ascertain a lab level discovery is going to become a commercial opportunity? What are the things which you look at? Yeah, it's a very interesting question, sir. It goes into the fundamental deep tech investing philosophy, at least what we follow. A lot of the entrepreneurs who come to us are usually typically in the idea stage or at the lab stage. We might call it from TRL3 to TRL5 or 6, but very early that means. Some of them have just an idea in hand, some of them have maybe a lab prototype ready as such, some validation in the lab, some of them may have a patent, some of them may have applied for a patent, some of them might consider applying for a patent, some of them would never even think of applying for a patent either. So for us, we hear about when a startup approaches us, four fundamental things that we look into, and some of them, I'm just basically structuring a lot of the things you said in the introductory remark into a little more digestible form in the way how we evaluate a product. Nothing new or revolutionary over there. Since we are a deep tech and deep science focused fund, the maximum risk as a new stage fund or a venture capital fund, we always underwrite risk. The maximum risk that we undertake or evaluate is typically on the technology side of things. When we look into technology, we usually see it in two different lenses. One on the science risk side of things and another from a the engineering risk will be absolute, not wouldn't need the market to be, be coming. So, to answer your question, that we want to see whether a lab-scale innovation has the potential to be a large startup. What we look into is, A, the science they are bringing onto the table. Is the science solvable? Does it agree with the fundamental laws of physics and nature and can be resolved in certain manner? Is there something innovative that is happening over there? Sometimes it might be just innovative for the market, maybe for India. Sometimes it might be groundbreaking from a global scale. For example, there is a company that I have been evaluating some time back. We didn't invest for a different reason, but they were doing the first popularized RNA. We all have heard about mRNA vaccines, DDR mRNA vaccines which Moderna and others produced. But if vaccines can be, the RNA can be circularized, they become more stable, and not just, we can use them not just in vaccines but also in drugs. And that company, that's a company which sits out of Bangalore and Chennai, and they are the 1 in 5 in the world that can do it. There is also, multiple, there is the UK company that we have invested in. They came interested with an idea, Professor IIT Madras, came with Dr. 𝗂𝗏 𝗏𝗏. He came with just an idea that a larger drone can be an equivalent for a flying taxi and can travel, imagine traveling from Bangalore city to Bangalore airport in 15 minutes. And we might think that as a utopian dream, but it's much closer to reality than ever. They are already in the phase of testing the equipment inside the flight. The test approvals might take another year or year and a half, but like in a span of 3 to 4 years, we actually might be flying taxis in Indian airspace. So those ideas need to be solid. They need to have the potential to work. We try to validate it with experts. But it's not just enough to have a technology itself. We also want to be sure that the people who are divided, the inventors, the founders, need to be extremely knowledgeable. They know inside out of it, and we also have the flexibility to accept and they don't know, go out and learn. And the third factor is the market, which convinces us, and I want to double stress again. The market opportunity needs to be there and it needs to be huge. So we evaluate all of these factors. How do you get to market? What is the path to commercialization? Even when we are evaluating the market, while we wouldn't have split empirical data to support our case, we still need to have a good understanding of what these factors play. And that's how we do it.
Wonderful. So I want to give a little more context to you. See, in the journey from lab to commercialization, I said about problem identification. So normally the first point where you actually start looking at commercialization is when you get an idea, and and industry is the first one you touch, because if you get an industry problem and you start focusing on that problem to see whether your technology can be applied, a solution can be built. So industry is the first thing, or a customer is the first thing which you touch to understand what you need to do next. Then after that you have to build the product. So you have incubators today who help you to actually make a product. I mean, they give you access to labs and fabs, etc. Your academy also gives, they also give. So you are in touch with incubator, then you are in touch with mentors, then you start getting this early grants, etc. Investors come when, most of the investors come when now you are ready to scale. So you have reduced a lot of risks, and then investors come at that stage. So we come in at that stage where you are now ready to scale and grow up, then investors start giving you money. I'm just only trying to tell you where investors come to you in your journey. They come when you are ready, when you are ready to grow, when you have handled most of the risks and you have completed them. Okay, so that is one, and I want to ask you something, Vishnu.
Yeah. So, can I just add to what you just said? Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, see, earlier, maybe 10 years ago, the opportunity to get support for a research-led startup was very rare in India. Now we have many in these facilitators, many grant programs across the country, which the founders need to definitely make use of. Whether it be specialized grants that 𝗪𝗏 has been distributing for almost a decade now, or product ministry, 𝗫𝗍 providing grants, to the point now we have an RIE scheme, which is not grants but like very low percent loans to startups to get from DRL 4 to DRL 6 or 7 stage. Those are like very crucial stuff that startup founders need to tap into. And I absolutely want to stress on the custom aspect. While it is easy for us to also say that the startup should go to the industries and customers first. I think as an ecosystem, the customers of the industrial community, the corporates in the country also need to warm up and welcome startups and learn how to work with it. And that is what I would also urge the community of industrialists in Tamil Nadu and Coimbatore in particular to be a little bit more open to work with startups. Because they are coming off finished products where everything is pulled through a vendor relationship to have. They're going to make mistakes, but some of those people who will make those mistakes, rectify them and move to a product which will help take your industry, what you are bringing to another level altogether. So it is imperative that as we want to move into a science innovation based economy, our corporates also need to be open to working with startups which are bound to make some mistakes, but also will create great value in the future. As a final practice, I think that's over the next maybe year, it wants to become the strongest hub for startups in the country.
Yeah, you're talking about Tamil Nadu becoming the strongest hub in the country. Yeah? Okay. Yeah. Today morning we had a good session by Mr. Nanduri. I mean, he was talking about what kind of initiatives the government is taking. And I think each one of them, I think, is really wonderful. So, one is this industry-academia partnership is very important. And researchers should solve industry problems. So this partnership is very important, and I think this is something which should be nurtured and cultivated all over. The ingredients are already there, but we need to nurture. So that, I think, is going to be a very key factor for helping Tamil Nadu become a strong technology hub. That is one. Second, we need patient capital. I think there are funding structures coming out. I think government is looking at creating fund of funds, which should help. If the patient capital is a long-term capital, and if it is there, it really helps, because funding is not easy. And if government is able to help you at the early stages in getting funding, I think is a very important thing. Third is, I think it's important that we tap into these different clusters we have. So manufacturing hubs, you have this automotive. We are the automotive capital of India. Then we have a place like Coimbatore where it's a textile and precision engineering. So we have these different clusters around which I think the startups should work, the researchers should work, so that solve local problems, and industry is available to help you because we are next door to them. So I think helping that, I think it's, these are three things which I think are very important. And I think we have Startup TN now, IT&T Hub, and they are all actually doing a lot of facilitation, and they are actively helping entrepreneurship to grow. So I think a lot of elements are already there. I think they have to be just kept. We have to go on making it stronger, and we see it happening. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to talk about was, I had something important when he started talking to me, but anyway. Okay, so like looking ahead, what are the sectors you think hold promise?
Yeah, so I'm getting to that, the promise part. Just one point I wanted to add on the Tamil Nadu bit. Couple of weeks ago, I was speaking in Chennai, and there was a whole debate about Chennai wanting to compete with Bangalore also. And my whole point was at that point was Chennai doesn't need to compete with Bangalore, or Tamil Nadu doesn't need to compete with Bangalore as such. The industrial base is so strong. We only need to play at the already strong industrial base and clusters for future. And just wanted to add that point.
Yeah.
And Boston has done that beautifully in US. The Silicon Valley became like the overall SaaS and digital and everything software-led ecosystem for startups. But Boston played up their strengths. They have as educational institutions, good industries like Harvard, MIT, and they just became like the biotech, tech hub of US. It's a smaller city than compared to New York or SF, and yet they managed to develop that ecosystem so well. That's probably the great example I would put. And I studied there, and I have seen how the state of Massachusetts put so much effort in promoting and working. So working towards that deep tech ecosystem. I'm glad that Tamil Nadu as a state is doing that as well. Sir, and just to, as you were asking about the likely sectors where I am expecting the maximum growth to happen. See, biotechnology, life sciences is going to be like a routine sector. The South especially has a lot of talent in this space, and I hope if, like the US was big corporates and lining up China to acquire and work with Chinese biotech. I hope in 5 to 7 years' time, that few will be in India. And the way I'm seeing the pipeline working, that space is definitely going well, and that's definitely will have a lot of potential. Similarly, the semiconductor industry, we missed the semiconductor bus multiple times, but the sheer factor that 40% of India's research talent out of India is testament to the fact that we have enough talent in the country to build and do things that will cater to the largest semiconductor industry, not just from a manufacturing-based perspective, but from an innovation base as well. Energy security in the country is of supreme importance. So I think people working in that space, people looking into that space would have tremendous opportunities in the next few years, whether it be in the generation side, finding alternatives to solar and wind or improving efficiencies in that space. Nuclear fission has huge opportunity. We still don't have a good nuclear fission startup in the country. Thorium deposits in this nation are so high, and we have the most advanced thorium-based technologies in our Power Atomic Research Center. Company and government now allows like 75% private sector participation. People need to start building that space. Foreign and private sector. And we also want to see things happening on modernization of the electric grid as such. Data centers are like the grid needs to modernize, and what I would imagine what happened with us with respect to phones, right? We skipped the entire landline part and went to smartphones. We skipped when it comes to money part, how we handle our financial transaction. We skipped the entire class, credit card and went to UPI. Similarly, in the electric grid, I would expect a leap that would happen. And we need to have like modern technology in wires, in control systems, in power electronics, in transformers, all of these. And how to make that happen, we need innovation within the country. There's a huge opportunity over there. Data centers are thinking about power demand, and India needs to get the forefront from a domestic and international perspective to cater to that. And that energy grid modernization is a huge opportunity. I thought these are few things that would be very interesting for the future. Space is going to be always evergreen, but at the same time, space is also going to be like a sector with certain potential. There is like other places where so much happening. 𝗧𝗡𝗥 also we have a lot of innovation thanks to this. That's happening. And there's a lot of stuff happening in different space. So please watch these spaces. There's a lot of opportunities there.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Vishnu. And I just wanted to summarize one last thing so investors, what do we look for from you, okay? There are 6-7 things which are important. One is the problem that you are solving. It should be really deep problem and should be affecting a lot of people. I mean, so pick up a problem which is really deep. I know some startups come to me, they say that I am developing something which is 30% cheaper than what we are importing today. That is no different. I mean, that is not going to help because anybody can do the same thing and reduce the cost and reduce the price. So you pick up something, it should be deep, there should be a lot of gaps, and it should be affecting a lot of people. So that is the first thing. Second, solution. Solution has to be unique and differentiated. You need to be able to patent it, and it should create wow for the customer. It should be completely different, in terms of, I'm sorry. Yeah, so that is the solution part. Third is validation. I kept talking to you about validation. You need to have idea validation, your product validation, market validation. Validation as a process, I think, is very important, and whether you are able to do that. Fourth, team. We just now spoke about the different stages. So it is not important if you only, it is not enough if you have only a research capability and you don't know about entrepreneurship, you don't know about have business acumen. So it's important to have a team which is able to jointly have multi-capability and able to understand the grind of the entrepreneurship and business. So I think it's important that the team has to be strong. Okay, maybe a mentor can help you partly, but the team has to be really strong. So that is the fourth thing which we look at. Fifth, of course, is regulatory. You should know all deep tech comes with regulatory knowledge. So and regulatory processes. So it's important to be on top of regulatory process, and that is something which we ascertain. We see how strong are you able to understand, and are you really following the map and ensuring regulation is being done quickly. Then, once you have done all these 4-5 things, the other thing we look at is your execution capability, and we also look at your business acumen. So, there is something called business model canvas. I think at some time you may want to at least understand what it is. So, different pieces of business, how they fit into, is something which you should be familiar with. So these are some of 6 or 7 things which an investor will definitely look at before considering investment into the company. So these are some of my last words. Anything more you want to add? Vishnu, we can go to questions otherwise.
No, you summarized it perfectly, sir. Question?
Yeah. So we have time for a few questions. 2 questions, okay. Yeah. Okay, after him.
Sir, okay, while discussing about the industries, the data centers have a power demand. So what about the hydrogen technology can be utilized for the power demands?
We are investors, but anyway, if Vishnu can answer, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm happy to take that, sir. I come from the climate industry, and I have invested in a hydrogen electrolyzer startup. And I'm actively into the hydrogen space as well. Hydrogen is a very versatile fuel, but and it is definitely going to be a very prominent fuel that we will see in the future. But that being said, the industry still has a lot of challenges. Especially, we can't be dependent on hydrogen that comes from natural gas, which is where the grey hydrogen that we currently get it from. We have to move towards green hydrogen, or a few other colors are also there. There are more renewable or more ecologically friendly options. But the tougher part over there is green hydrogen as such is very expensive currently. We have technologies, electrolyzers that the holy grail is to have green hydrogen being produced at $1.50 per kilogram. But currently our electrolyzers are not capable of producing that. Hydrogen one of the most common compounds in Earth, water. H2O. But the problem, we don't have economical ways to split water into making hydrogen and oxygen. Is that when we achieve that post-parity, hydrogen becomes a very useful fuel to be used. Currently, what we need to understand is 70 to 80% of the electrolyzer industry, or even more, is completely in China. Hydrogen is a useful fuel for the future. Startups can pay some about it, but the production of hydrogen still needs to be run at a utility scale, not necessarily from a startup perspective. For that, we need to have, industries which can set up hydrogen electrolyzer, produce hydrogen. We need to have fuel cell companies which can help us utilize hydrogen, or a gas turbine company which can also effectively manage hydrogen combustion. But how to make fuel of hydrogen is an important question. Hydrogen is also difficult to transport things. So there is the storage and importation problem as such on the hydrogen value chain. So there's a lot of issues that needs to be solved on the hydrogen value chain. Unfortunately, most of that is yet to be solved. We have that how solve those problems will be solved, and quickly hydrogen becomes a major fuel.
Oh, thanks, Vishnu. One last question.
So please pardon me, sir, if I ask a layman question. My question is, I'm a professor working in a reputed institution. I got a funding from a government or a private company. I have a POC ready. And my POC is also deployed in a SME. Now, how do we approach you? Is it okay if I directly approach you? Otherwise, do I need to partnership with some startup to approach you? Or do you want us to open a startup and approach you? Which is the best way to approach you?
So you have to be a startup, you said that. So we fund startups which are registered DPIIT private limited company. So you have to be that to reach out to investors. So
after stage 2 or stage 3, unless otherwise we are not having a startup, there is no way we can get a fund.
Without startups, investors will not be able to invest. We need to be a private limited entity to be investable.
Okay. So my second question to Vishnu sir. So you mentioned about biotech, semiconductor and energy security. So how do you see about computational material discovery?
Oh, brilliant. Do you have something over there? Please. My LinkedIn is right open. I haven't seen.
Yeah. We have a POC ready in the computational material discovery. And
computational materials is materials. One space I forgot to mention was materials.
Advanced materials.
India needs to have material dominance. Yeah. We have a few investments, but this material thing could also be in sustainable materials, in biotech, aerospace. We need material innovation happening. If anyone is working on computational material development and discovery space, very welcome. Please write to me.
Yeah, I think that's very useful. But you have to anyway form the company and all. That is a process. Okay.
Yeah, but if I have to invest, I don't invest in projects. We only invest in startups. If you are a researcher who is looking for project funding, that needs to be probably a grant funding. But nevertheless, please write. I am happy to speak.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks, Vishnu. And we can log off. Thank you so much for joining us, Vishnu. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.